To me, it's the most expressive bass clef instrument.
Hey there, Jay Metcalf here. People are asking me all the time for more BetterSax content. So back in February of this year, I went to New York City and met up with my friend Jason Marshall, who is one of the top BetterSax players on the music scene today, to get his valuable insights. I got a ton out of our conversation, and I'm sure you will too, even if you don't play the BetterSax. If you enjoy interviews with great saxophone players like this one, do us a favor and drop us a thumbs up right now, and also subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. I've put a link in the description below to Jason's website where you can get his recordings directly from him, and I recommend you do so. If you've got questions about sound, air, articulation, what BetterSax players to listen to, playing in a big band, gear, low B flat versus low A baritone saxophones, vintage horns versus new horns, and if you want Jason's altissimo fingers for BetterSax, keep watching because we're covering all of that stuff and more.
Saxophone players in general don't use enough air. That's across the board. So when I play alto and tenor around my teachers, I'm with air that I would use for baritone. For them, that's just the correct amount of air. So I think generally folks don't use enough air. But you gotta, especially when after you become an adult, you gotta do things to develop your capacity. So you gotta, I don't know, swim, run, ride a bike, do something to develop your cardiovascular fitness. Because I mean, they didn't always talk about it, but all of the folks that played strong for a long time did that. You gotta get your air right, first of all. And very often, playing as loud as you can is a really good place to start. That ain't where you end up, but you gotta get used to filling your whole chest cavity up with air and putting it through the saxophone. Right. I would say that with anyone, with any saxophone, but in particular baritone, because one of the first responsibilities you have is to find the lead alto player's sound and figure out how to support that. Now, you got to have a strong lead alto player, and you got to figure out how they breathe, and you got to figure out how they phrase. But in a big band, especially in middle school and high school, you're going to be doubling the bass and the bass trombone a lot. So you got to get good at reading rhythm, bass parts and things like that. You got to your first 2 points of intonation will be the lead alto and the bass trombone. Now, on the real side, they should be listening to you and not the other way around. But in early education, it's hard to know who knows what at that point. But the lead alto player from the Duke Ellington Orchestra, Charlie Young, he'll say up front, "I'm listening to you. So wherever you put it is where we're gonna go, and then I'm gonna go and you go with me. But as far as intonation, is where you put it."
Okay, so they're kind of building up from the bottom.
Correct.
Okay, so everyone needs to really be locking in lead alto. I mean, everyone's kind of listening to the lead alto, everyone in the band, right? But especially in the saxophone section. But if there's a BetterSax player, you're locking in to lead alto and also bass trombone.
Correct. My number one advantage in saxophone, particular baritone, in music in general, I would say in life, is that as far as my sound, my mother sang to me every day for 18 years. You gotta develop a diet of what to listen to. And to me, that's what creates your sound. In the same way that what creates your speech is who talks to you. It's really the same. So if you don't come from a rich musical tradition, you just have to get it how everyone else gets it. You got to listen to the right stuff. Like if it's baritone, square one on baritone is Leo Parker. People say it's Pepper Adams. People say it's Jerry Mulligan. People say it's Harry Carney. I respect all of that. It's Leo Parker. People say it's Serge Shalom. People say it's whoever. They say it's Adrian Rollini. They say it's all these, and I hear all of that. It's Leo Parker. Because you have to be able to fill the horn up, but you also have to have percussion in the attack, because that's part of what being a bass instrument is about. You have to have percussion in the attack because the frequency is so low that in order to create contour, there's got to be percussion in the attack. And without that, it changes the nature of the whole ensemble. If the bass instruments don't have any corners on it, if it has no edges on it, then there's only so much you can do with undefined bass instruments. As far as articulation, you need to articulate harder on baritone than you think you do. Because in the instant, it'll feel like you're doing it too much. But it takes more articulation on baritone to accomplish the same thing as it does on alto and tenor. It's important to figure out where your instrument relates vocally. Like if you play tenor, then for me, on tenor, first thing I'm thinking about is Ray Charles. First of all, is Ray Charles, and then Donny Hathaway. And I say two at once because depending on what kind of music I'm doing, I'm hearing one or the other. As far as the baritone, I'm thinking Luther Vandross and Peabo Bryson. I mean, I'm born in '83, so I'm acknowledging what was around me at the time. But you know, Johnny Hartman is a baritone. Joe Williams is a baritone. Billy Eckstine, but sometimes his syllables don't translate quite as well. And in terms of syllables, Ronnie Cuber taught me about syllables. Like you gotta, with baritone, because it's a bass instrument, you gotta be careful about which instrument you play and what your setup is, because that'll affect the syllable that it makes. And if the syllable is too broad, it sounds dated. So for me, cons make too broad a syllable and they sound big. I know with baritone, there's always the low A versus low B flat thing. Low B flats make a bigger syllable. That's why people like them at first. And there's nothing, I love playing the B flat horns I have, and they're great. I play a low A because it does make a narrower syllable, and that makes it easier to be more lyrical, especially when I'm not playing, quote, jazz music. When I play everything else, and it has to sound more contemporary, a low A, because the bell is narrower, makes that easier.
Okay, that's really interesting. Because I mean, I've noticed that, but I hadn't thought about it in those terms, like why, you know, I play Yonigasawa, and it plays like it's a alto or tenor, you know,
plays
it's
easy,
so focused and easy,
yeah.
compared to like an old con, which you got to work
a lot
more.
Sure. I mean, even the notion of playing an old instrument is a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
Because even Harry Carney played the newest con that there was at all times. People didn't start playing old instruments until the 80s. I mean, even John Coltrane got the Mark VI when it came out. There is no reason whatsoever to play a vintage saxophone. I mean, I know people love them and that's fine. But there's nothing better about old instruments. Yeah. They're just older. Yeah. You know, I mean, after 75, 80, you know, and the saxophone as we know it kind of settled down into what it is, I mean, they just got better. And yeah, I mean, if somebody knows of a vintage instrument that universally plays better and is as consistent as a new instrument, show it to me. I'm happy to have this conversation with anybody about any instrument. And I see folks show up with these antiques and they play loud, and that's fine. You know, I can play loud too. But it's obviously a received sort of value system. Like someone just told you that you should want a con or you should want a Mark VI. And I have a Mark VI, I like it. But it's harder to play than these instruments. So I don't play it. You know, I have a King Super 20, it plays great. But it's way harder to play than this.
And this is?
This is a P. Marriott, I think it's a 300. And P. Marriott has been making really consistent instruments that play strong and they play clear, and you can find your sound real easy on them. And I've been playing these since 2006, and they've just gotten better. You know, of all the new instruments, P. Marriott has definitely devoted the most resources to developing the instruments. And now if you go get P Marriott 300 or 301. They make a B flat, a low B flat. That's the 302 plays great. The Master 97 tenor and alto. You pick them up. It doesn't. You don't have to pick through them. They all play really strong. The new soprano is really strong, and they just all work. Of all the new companies, P Marriott has spent the most resource becoming a comparable thing, and now they're as good as anything else out there.
Sure. And the mouthpiece, what's that?
It's a Jody Jazz DV, number 10.
Whoa.
For me, I don't play anything I can't replace. So I don't have any custom mouthpiece. I don't have Jody's mouthpieces worked on.
What reeds are you using on that?
I use Rico Orange Box, number 4.
Whoa, okay. Hard reed on a big tip opening, okay.
Yeah, but because it's baritone, and I use a Rovner Platinum ligature, and the ligature is all the way at the bottom of the reed. And that means for me that it might be instantly harder to start the sound when the reed is new, but you get maximum vibration. We say slap. You get the most slap out of it. And big mouthpiece, hard reed. I used to play a bigger mouthpiece and a harder reed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for a little while, I played a RIA. It was an aluminum mouthpiece, RIA. I used to study with Hamiet Blewett.
Okay, yeah.
And he played a RIA. So I got a RIA, but I got a 12. And then for a while I was playing a RIA 12 with a Macaferry number 5. I took a lesson with Vincent Herring, and he said, find your perfect mouthpiece and perfect reed combination, and then go down a half size in each one. He said, because then you'll be able to play it when you're not feeling good. And part of being a professional is being able to function when you're not feeling good. And I heard him, but I didn't hear him until one day I had the flu. In that moment, I remembered the lesson I had with Vincent Herring. And so I said, okay, let me figure out something else. I don't have a ritual. I don't cook them. I don't soak them in vodka. I don't drill a hole in them. I don't do none of that.
You don't write on them?
I have one of my teachers is Bruce Williams. It's one of my teachers even now.
I'm going to see him later today.
And he writes the Gettysburg Address on his reeds, okay? The whole Declaration of Independence on his reeds. The baritone has the range that it does, and so it goes. Ferguson's first band was Ronnie Cuber in it, and he played altissimo. And then I heard Maynard Ferguson's on record with Bruce Johnstone. He played altissimo. So okay, and then I heard Hamiet Blewett, which was going in a whole other direction, but he played a lot of altissimo. I said, okay, so this is just the normal range for the instrument. Baritone in the altissimo, you got to figure out how to get over the break first, because that's the thing. So and every baritone saxophone is different. But he said, okay, fork plus the G sharp in the left hand, F in the right hand. So okay. He said, there's your F sharp. So I played that. He says, okay, now lift up the F in the right hand. He said, I played. He said, there's your G. And he said, okay, add side C. I did that. He said, there's your G sharp. He said, okay, do 2 and 3, and maybe the G sharp key in the left hand. I did that. He said, there's your A. The rest is on you.
and then so what did you do? You figured out fingerings by experimenting?
Different, yeah. A lot of, overblowing, a lot of different fundamental fingerings.
Right.
So.
Is that, because I heard, before you tell me your fingerings, you had a really strong sound on those really high notes. It didn't sound, so I would, you were probably using a lot of keys closed, is that
Not
right?
necessarily.
No?
So, let me see.
Okay, well, you're getting a really a lot of note.
Yeah. I mean,
just squeaks, you know.
No, of course not.
But
that's air though.
Yeah.
That's the same air as you use for the low B flat and the low A. One of the first things that I found valuable is overblowing this B flat to get F sharp.
Okay.
Because it's conveniently located for one. There's a bunch of different F sharp fingerings, but B flat as the high F sharp is very convenient because then you can just roll up to B, which is the G,
Right.
right? And then fundamental G fingering can overblow the altissimo G sharp.
I gotta say, I think saxophone players are not great
That's
jokes.
awesome.
I think it's like a bass player drummer thing.
You know what? I
mean?
think saxophone players are better at comedic presentation. I don't think jokes are the thing. Like if you listen to Cannonball Adderley, he's not telling jokes, but at times it's very funny.
Yeah.
Eddie Harris
Yeah.
had stand-up routines as part of his show, but they're not really telling jokes. Yeah, saxophone's too cool, man.
Yeah,
you know, it's too cool,
I always
man.
think they're the good-looking ones,
Yeah,
the intellectual ones, you
yeah.
know.
The funny ones.